Men are all alike.
In what way?
They're always bugging us about something or other.
Can you think of a specific example?
I know you don't. What's with that? There's a group of women in the audience that wish you would.
No.
Girls?
Whoa.
All right.
Look at that. Isn't that cool?
I'm sorry to hear that you're depressed.
It's true. I am unhappy.
I'm not real. I'm a computer model. Made piece by piece.
In today's modern age, it's becoming increasingly difficult to conduct our lives without the use of technology. The present human is conditioned into using the online environment to find out all unknown information without naturally thinking for themselves.
Throughout this documentary, we will assess the importance of manipulative factors of technology, both for the present and the future for the first world. To understand how technology is affecting modern society and the areas in which it has the largest impact.
Over the past 20 years, social media has become a prominent factor in almost every young person's daily life. During 2017, over 2.46 billion people had at least one social media account. If we focus on the US alone, the world's largest hub for social media, above 80% of the country's population has access to social sites, with an average of 323 minutes per hour per person being spent on social sites alone over a week's period. However, as popular as social media has become, do the personalised profiles that we all have online present a greater danger than the majority have not yet realised?
If you think about it, primarily, almost everyone wants to be nosy. Everyone wants to secretly see what everyone else is doing or not doing, whether it be a form of self-righteous bragging, or genuine interest for the well-being of your friends. Social media allows you to basically spy and subconsciously compare yourself to others without even contacting them if you wish. For example, have you ever thought about how many convictions Charlie, the class clown of 20 years previous, has had? Or maybe how many children the boy you couldn't pluck up the courage to ask out and now has years afterwards? I know I have. In 1995, the first glimpse of today's social media was created through a website labelled classmates.com. The site allowed for users to create their own personal profile that allowed them to be found and in turn search and find old classmates that they may have lost contact with since leaving education. The site now has 57 million signed users and was a perfect way to answer all those burning questions you had about the people of your past. 8 years later, in 2003, LinkedIn was created, the first form of professional social media dedicated to connecting workers from different and similar job sectors together. LinkedIn is now regarded as the 7th most popular social media, with 297 million active users and 1 billion site views. Most importantly, 1 year later during 2004, Facebook was created, a social platform that arguably has the greatest effect on the way social media works today. The site was the first to reach 1 billion members, and as of 2017, the site has now recorded 1.94 billion active users in 1 month alone. A giant within the industry, out of 62 acquired companies, Facebook also owns social media heavyweights WhatsApp and Facebook. From those mesmerising statistics, it is clear social media is thriving. However, do all the billions of people signed up to social media all have a more positive aspect on life now, or was life simpler, easier and more positive before? Studies show a large percentage of users have experienced serious psychological effects, whether it be consciously or subconsciously. Studies show that children who use social media for 3 or more hours a day are twice as likely to have mental health issues. Facebook even has industry-branded illnesses such as Facebook depression and Facebook addiction disorder, with studies suggesting Facebook led to less moment-to-moment happiness and less life satisfaction. Dr. Haley Van Zwanberg, child psychiatrist, suggests children are totally immersed in a virtual world, which is damaging both to the way they see themselves and the way that they perceive the real world. Some young children now find it hard to unpick reality from fantasy. In essence, it is both creating and promoting a perfect lifestyle, otherwise known as Facebook self, where it seems the uploader has no worries or cares in real life. Gillo's psychological study on the online false self explains, the Facebook self is usually more socially acceptable and a more popular self, and as such it can be very different from the user's real or true self. This in turn can have a detrimental effect on the viewer, as they are constantly making a comparison between themselves in real life and the uploader's Facebook self social media representation.
There is no doubt that the way information is publicised across the media today is very controversial in all aspects. Obviously, it is the press's job to exaggerate the facts of stories and how they are portrayed in order to gain attention of the general public.
The credibility of sources differentiates highly. For example, The Sun and the Daily Mail are known for heavily exaggerating in their stories in order to gain publicity, whereas The Guardian, Independent and the BBC can be seen as more trustworthy, factual sources of information.
The power of technology gives political candidates an advantage to quickly gain a strong political following through event stunts, raising publicity and the popularity of a candidate if used correctly, nurturing already popular public views. Technology allows the fast spread of this information in seconds online, filling our minds with various accounts of current events and political decisions, leave us in a state of confusion on what to believe.
All that is necessary to destroy a person's character publicly is to take that person and overtly or covertly associate them to something that masses will reject. Jeremy Corbyn's train stunt proves he really isn't like other politicians. He's much more dishonest than them. Jeremy Corbyn claims Virgin Trains was ram-packed, backed by passengers. However, both articles shared virally after the event online, therefore who should we believe, with such contrasting accounts on a singular event? Clickbait, 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 clickbait. There is a study that examines selective exposure and how we as humans majorly search for proof of current beliefs rather than non-supportive or inconsistent information. Technology can easily manipulate this in the aspect of clickbait advertisements with large controversial headings relevant to our previous search history, continuing the habit of one-directional opinion. The media has the power to only release accounts of information and news that they want us to see, especially in the aspect of politics, to manipulate our thinking. What is selective perception? Do we know what it means? I'm sure we've all heard of Edward Snowden, who claims the FBI would have been able to review Hillary Clinton's emails in minutes. Do we have any privacy anymore? Who is listening to us right now? Are you there? Are you there? Today, information can be spread across the world in milliseconds. It's like a big game of Chinese whispers, with 7.5 billion people playing. But who do we believe? How many times has the story changed? Who's the story about? When did it happen? Did that really happen? Someone watching our every move. One small mistake might not be too small. What did Jeremy Corbyn mean by this? Did he mean to nod? Or was it a big statement? Within seconds, everyone already has their opinion. The speed which information travels supports the conditions for circular reporting. Publication A publishes misinformation, where publication B reprints it
then publication A then cites publication B as the source for the information. Circular reporting also occurs where multiple publications report on the same initial piece of false information, which then appears to another author as a credited piece of information. But what can we believe today? News reporters constantly fighting over getting the best controversial story to sell to the newspapers. With the power of social media today, are we all news reporters? But who's telling the truth? Will we ever find out?
You may be familiar with the statistic that 90% of the world's data was created in the last few years. It's true. Within the last 5 years, big data has taken over the internet, with every site and page you click on being tracked, followed, collected and stored. Much of the world's data increase is due to more sources of information being created by people. The more we use it, the more we create an informative profile of ourselves, what we like, dislike, our buying habits, hobbies, political and social views. Big data analytics has the power to provide insights about people that are far beyond what they even know about themselves. This problem existed before big data. Privacy has always been an issue on the internet, but it wasn't as huge a risk until big data analytics gave people the tools and techniques to be highly accurate with their predictions. It's a buzzword and a vague term, but at the same time an obsession with entrepreneurs, consultants, researchers and the media. It is now being used to predict and gather information for science to calculate and solve problems. Although this new way of sourcing information has changed marketing and research entirely, it has its drawbacks when it comes to the legitimacy of its knowledge and power.
To understand why this matters, consider findings from social science about recency bias, which describes a tendency to assume that future events will closely resemble recent experience. It's a version of what is also known as available heuristic, the tendency to base your thinking disproportionately on whatever comes easily to mind.
It's also a universal psychological attribute. If the last few years have seen exceptional cold summers where you live, for example, you might be tempted to state that summers are getting colder, or that your local climate may be cooling.
In fact, you shouldn't read anything whatsoever into the data. You would need to take a far, far longer view to learn anything meaningful about climate trends. In the short term, you'd be best not speculating at all, but who among us can manage that? The likelihood of a significant result being false grows fast, even more so when only positive results are published.
Results are only as good as the model in which they are predicted. It shows that we let ourselves see the data that we want to see, but not what actually is crucial or informative to improve.
It's important to question the value of your information, especially when it comes to the use in science and research development, as the level of detail on offer instills not useful scepticism, but false confidence which can portray incorrect information depending on computers and numbers. Allowing technology to control the way we think disconnects us from our human instincts.
The relevance of storing big data is essential for gathering large pieces of information that could be used constructively to solve problems or find opportunities. However, the impact of misusing big data can have consequences on a global scale.
When Donald Trump won the presidential campaign in 2016, it shocked the whole world. However, it didn't seem to come as a surprise when it was speculated that the winning campaign was manipulated by Russian hackers to turn the vote in his favour. Intel on Russia's attempt to influence the 2016 election reveals hackers managed to break into dozens of state voting systems and tried to delete info into at least one or more of them. While Russian officials have denied the country targeted the US elections, former FBI James Comey declared under oath during the Senate Intelligence Committee hearing that the Russians interfered in our election and that they will be back. Comey was dismissed by presidential Donald Trump on May 9, 2017. Statements from the Trump and the White House suggested that he fired the nut job to ease the pressure Trump was under during the Russian investigation. Better and better tools exist to help decision makers ask meaningful questions of the information they possess, but you can only analyse what remains accessible.
Mere accumulation is no kind of answer. With false promises and naivety, it has made us believe whatever is on our computer and TV screens. The hierarchy is corrupted, but as no one could imagine an alternative to the status quo, politicians and citizens are resigned to maintaining a pretense on the functioning society. Over time, this delusion is having a self-fulfilling prophecy, and the fakeness is accepted by everyone as real.
There's a counterintuitive downside to collecting vast amounts of information about economics and human behaviour. It can mean we ignore the lessons of history. What we choose to know matters just as much as what you don't know.
Since the birth of the internet, there has been many developments in the way we communicate with each other. Arguably, the most significant is social media. It is estimated that 2.6 billion people use and interact with social media platforms around the world. In Northern America, 78% of the population have declared that they have or had owned a social media account, which in perspective emphasizes the grip that technology holds on modern society, especially Western culture. The most prevalent social media platform, according to various sources, is Facebook. By the end of 2017, the company recorded the accumulated amount of users on the platform at 2.2 billion. The strongest attribute of Facebook is its ability to seek and communicate with different individuals around the globe with no cost. Another significant resource is its ability to allow users to express their opinions and perspectives on the platform. From visual content to written statements, people can portray themselves in a number of ways. From a political perspective, Facebook held a pivotal role in the presidential campaign for Donald Trump and the UK Democratic decision to leave the EU, further demonstrating the power and sphere of influence at the company's disposal. Looking at social media from a more creative perspective, platforms such as Instagram, Tumblr, and Pinterest offer its users the ability to construct a desirable and artistic persona by creating personal profiles for others to see.
One example of how big data has transformed the industry is human health and mortality. By gathering large amounts of information about human anatomy, we are now able to create the virtual person, meaning from a medical perspective, it has given us the potential to predict and ultimately prevent diseases and biological deformities in the future.
Another notable impact that big data offers is its ability to mitigate and prevent casualties in weather catastrophes by using social media. During the natural disasters that took place in both Haiti and Texas recently, a team of research analysts unified to collect and interpret Twitter and Facebook posts to help locate and rescue those in distress. Their overall objective was to determine whether the posts were first-hand accounts and finally the validity of those accounts and posts. By gathering and using all relevant data, they were able to determine the most affected areas and the most endangered individuals. The effort then provided emergency services with detailed and reliable information, which helped minimize and prevent casualties. Another technological outlet to take note of is the media and its influence on politics. With an ever-increasing abundance of information via news outlets, it has in effect created a wider array of opinions. As a result of this, there is now a broader range of ideologies and perspectives on world affairs. Today, we as individuals are exposed to and are able to absorb and interact with many narratives around the world. We must take heed of the vast array of media outlets available to the general public. Televised media is no longer the dominant source for news, but it is in fact now a combination of social media, written media, and televised media. However, television, as a form of broadcasting news, still remains the most prevalent outlet of the three. One of the most significant events in history that the media has played a significant role in is the publication of the Vietnam War. It was the first war ever to be televised, and despite much controversy around the role it played in undermining the war effort, it unquestionably revealed war in a new light. More importantly, it gave the American people the opportunity to observe war from a first-hand account. The media acted as an alternative source to the numerous statements issued by the US government. Ultimately, it revealed that the government stated intentions of liberating the pro-democratic South Vietnam from tyrannical dictatorship in North Vietnam was not in fact their sole reason for their intervention, and there was in actuality alternative motives in mind. To summarise, the media acted as a medium for accountability for the government, forcing them to adhere to and cooperate with questions they had not had to face before. This finally demonstrates the influence the media has, exhibiting its ability to hold positions of power accountable for their actions.
The internet is an ever-expanding universe, constantly filling itself with good and bad information. Overall, it's our responsibility as humans to control and manage what we see and hear. What we do with it is up to us.